everybody? Live stream broadcast here between Evans and special guests and myself, Nick. We appreciate everybody stopping in as always, and we are, especially me, I'm very delighted to have small children involved. So Carter's first ever appearance on camera on podcast. Let's hope that we get perfect picks only tonight, Carter. But skipping bedtime and helping out. Look at that. Wants the rest of the mic away from Dad already.
Devouring the microphone.
I love it. Yeah. If I had doing the exact same thing.
He'll be my co-anchor one day.
No doubt. I've already had Vaughn on a couple live stream broadcasts, so it's a lot of fun. Just wait, Dad. So
I'm looking forward to it.
This is a great preview. So again, yeah, I'm Nick. That's Matt, and high school football. And we've had a pretty good season so far already. At least Matt has, in terms of prognosticating these games with picks. I saw that Matt had only one loss last week and 11 correct picks. So don't know how that Warlock math works out, but it does. He
likes correct picks.
In about 10 minutes' time, we'll be joined by head coach of the Mark Morris Monarchs, Mike Peck. And I'm very excited to talk with Coach Peck and give him a chance to share some of his insight and stories and just a little bit about who he is. Come on here in a little bit. But maybe what? 11-1 last week, Matt. That's pretty good. You must have picked Anacortes, that's for sure, because they won the game of the week last week in the 2A bracket, or at least 2A classification, 35-21 over Linden. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games to where that seems fairly close on paper by the time you look at it in the box score, but you get the feeling in the sense game that Anacortes pretty much handled business and was really never threatened throughout the game. So
yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing as well. I think that they're established. I mean, they're already established as one of the top teams in 2A, but I think that they're they've established that they're the cream of the crop in D1 for sure, and they're kind of taking that role away from where Linden has been the last decade.
and Anacortes were seeded last year, and even if you go the season before, and where Anacortes was seeded, both the teams lost, and they were seeded in 5th, I believe. So seemed to be something that I think that the seeding committee is going to hold against Linden for losing by 2 touchdowns to Anacortes.
Yeah, if anything, it'll be beneficial to them in, there's going to be some other teams that possibly have worse losses for them, or maybe a team that doesn't have any losses, that just doesn't have any signature wins. This is a game that could go in the positive for Linden despite having a loss.
Yeah, I'm interested to circle back on this game and see kind of how it affects both squads and what the percentage is. The team that's at the heels of Anacortes, we should probably mention them real quick since we have almost every week. Tumwater comes up with another impressive non-conference win, albeit against a 1A team, but Nooksack Valley, not one of those 1A squads that you're feeling sorry for when it comes to get them as the opponent. They beat just about any team in the state on any given day, but Tumwater wins it 49-12, again padding their non-conference record. This is kind of the I guess the tug of war, so to speak, between Anacortes and Tumwater. Who's non-conference? I'm probably leaning toward Tumwater, but who's going to play a tougher league schedule? Go to Anacortes. It'll be interesting what the seeding think about these two teams when it comes time to putting them in order 1 or 2 if they do finish undefeated?
Yeah, in all honesty, I think that it doesn't really matter which one is 1 or 2. I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to who's going to wear the dark, the home colors at state championship. I think either one of them, I wouldn't argue with Tumwater at 1. I wouldn't argue with Anacortes at 1. I think that normally I would give the nod to the team that has the tougher league schedule. But in this case, Tumwater is scheduled so tough non-league that you can't really put that argument to rest. So I legitimately think I could see a split down the middle, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them 1 and 2 in either order.
Yeah. Nonetheless, like you said, 1 or 2 with either of these teams, which are different. They would both be on a collision course probably to play each other once again. But I want to circle the one other 2A game real quick here, and that's Orting and Franklin Pierce. Now, I'll be the first to admit I had no idea that Franklin Pierce game win 6-8 is as impressive of his win. It poses an interesting question as to what you think of Franklin Pierce going forward. They're a power run team. They like to bang it in between the tackles. They kind of run it's like a variation of a wing team, kind of like a power team, old school. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Franklin Pierce is able to. They got a lot of games that are still going to be tough on their schedule, right? Up in their league. That it's either Anacortes or Tumwater, and maybe it's Franklin Pierce. Maybe it's a team that we didn't really have on the radar coming into this season. We'll see about where they end up on rankings, but I kind of like where the Cardinals are at.
Yeah, I do too. That was the one game I missed last week was Orting and Franklin Pierce, but I think that the SPSL 2A they've got 5 or 6. They've got like 5 or 6 really, really decent. I wouldn't say like top tier teams, but maybe like, in that upper echelon. But they're going to have some opportunities to have some really quality wins coming up. Be careful, bud. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Franklin Pierce did kind of they showed us last year that they are a tough team, and I think if I remember correctly, I think the computer projection model very untested and all that stuff had them looking really good. But yeah, no, I like where Franklin Pierce is at. I'm excited to see how the SPSL as a whole does during crossovers, and then once we get to that seeding part, what kind of respect they're shown by the committee.
Definitely a game I didn't see coming. Orting on the heels of a big win against Fife, we kind of figured that those two teams might be the 1, the 2 out of SPSL. But at this point, you could throw Eatonville into the mix, and then obviously Franklin Pierce is there, and Stillicum also in that league. So there's a lot of SPSL. Just to touch real quick before we are waiting in our lobby here. But, we had O'Day on the road going to Eastside Catholic, and we knew the defense was tough. I didn't see it being this tough, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I saw that score, I kind of had a double take, and I was like, is that at halftime? But yeah, no, it was definitely a result. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised either way to see whoever won that game. But yeah, the sheer fact that O'Day's defense came out and pitched a shutout was very, very surprising to me. I mean, it's a testament to what they do up there. I don't know. I didn't watch the game. I haven't heard much about it. I don't know if they forced a bunch of turnovers or if, or what it was like. But I mean, anytime that you can shut out a top 5 team in the state, it's definitely something to hang your hat on.
The other games, Freeman at Asotin. Asotin keeps their record perfect. A hard-fought 21-18 win. I saw a tweet by Coach Bartlehart of Northwest Christian said that every game in the Northeast is a state title type game, and when you think about the eliminators that are going to take place in that league, Newport just gave Northwest Christian a tough game. They're still going to be a tough team to beat weekend. Should we look right? Teams over there that are going to make it difficult for somebody to come out of that league unscathed. It's another one of those situations about where the committee's going to put these teams at.
Yeah, and even like a Lindritzville Sprague, who was big 2, 3, 4 years ago, is kind of starting to see a resurgence there. There's they don't do a cross state week 10 and 2B, but yeah, those district crossovers for District 6 there are going to be absolutely wild.
Yeah. Blaine, a good win in 1A. They end up beating Falls 47-22. I think that's a huge win for the Borderites to kind of solidify their, quote, realness. It'll be interesting to see where they go. They got a big game coming up this weekend. I believe they're playing Linden Christian, a 2-2, 4-0 matchup there. So be real to see kind of where Blaine goes. But Granite Falls was a team that was probably going to figure to be in the conversation for a playoff spot and still potentially could. They play in the same league with Kings. What do you make about where Blaine is at right now, Matt?
I like that whole 1A Northwest Conference. Just from the top to the bottom. I mean, I look at that conference and I see I think I see 2 teams that really could make deep runs at state. But I see if it was a 16-team tournament, I could see them getting 4 in. I think they're going to get 3 due to the fact it's going to be a 12-team. But that the fight for that last spot between Blaine, Meridian, and Mount Baker is going to be fascinating to watch. Absolutely fascinating. They're all playing great football right now.
Well, cool. Real quick, we're going to step aside from talking last week's games, and we're going to bring in our guest, head coach of the Mark Morris Monarchs, Mike Peck, and let's see if we get Mike here. He's on audio. So, Mike, can you hear us okay? If you're there and you can hear us, Mike, I cannot hear you.
I hear some background noise.
Yeah. This is the beauty. First time using this with Coach Peck, or anybody for that matter, other than you or for Jared. So see what we can do here. We're having technical difficulties, so let me see if I can. In the meantime, we'll still stick around here and work through it. I just told him to see if he can back out and then try to rejoin, but it says he's having problems with it, allowing him to mute or unmute. So we'll have to figure that out. There, he left, so.
Yeah, it'll be great to talk to Coach Peck. I was a big fan of him when he was at Prairie, and then followed him a lot when he went over to Burley the last couple of years. My family lives over in Southeast Idaho, and so I try to keep in touch as to what's going on over there. And when I heard that he was over there, I was like, oh, gotta watch some Burley football. Man, those offenses were so much fun to watch. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say they averaged at least 40, 45 points a game over there. It was awesome. So it's very awesome to have Coach Peck back here in the state of Washington.
Are you able to speak now on the microphone there, Mike? I'm still not hearing you. Are you hearing anything, or Matt?
I'm not hearing anything. I think I hear some background noise, but I'm not hearing anything there. Is there a master mute button on your end there, Nick?
There is a button that allows me to turn the volume up or down, but the only button that it allows me to do is to kick him.
Oh.
We don't want to do that.
No.
Mike, if you can hear us on the bottom, there should be, I think, an icon that has a microphone listed to it. There might be like a little tiny arrow there that might be like pulling what your audio input is. So
I just saw 3 or 4 bars pop up next to the microphone down there, so I think we may be getting close.
I think that might be internet signal. But
oh, that makes sense.
Either way.
The other way.
Yeah. Let's see here. I wish I could see what
I saw it pop on a it looked like see it shows the mute there, it shows unmute there.
Yeah, I see it unmuted now. It might have to do camera and audio. I hear a dog.
Yep, that's mine.
Well, I'm trying to get it figured out here. Hopefully it can be something that can get solved here, because I don't like promising things not to be able to deliver.
Carter, do you have a question for Coach Peck? Well, it's turned into the Carter Show, guys.
The Carter Show, yeah. I did see what's the breed of Matt's dog? Such a deep, intimidating bark.
Oh, he is a pit bull terrier, 75 pounds.
Pit bull terrier.
He is amazing. He's the biggest lap dog you'll ever meet. Can I have those?
Justin says Carter is my new favorite host. So I'm gonna have Coach Peck see if he can get this going on a cellular phone.
I'm one of the hosts, and Carter's one of my favorite hosts too, Justin.
They said that we're killing it because we're doing this during the debates. Yeah,
that may have been intentional, guys.
I didn't watch a second of it.
Oh no, I had it on for a while. We unplugged our headphones. Carter,
Mike, can you hear us?
Back in.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, we have audio, albeit we do not have a picture. That'll work just fine. Coach Peck, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Sorry about the difficulties. It didn't like the computer, but it works on my phone just fine.
No worries. Sometimes when you use the computer, I think the very first time you log in, it wants to get permissions to use either video or audio, and I don't know once you select one if it works or not. But either way, we're glad to have it figured out. Apparently, the debates are all over with, which never started for me. I don't know if they started for either of you two, but I'm happy to be talking. I'm happy to be talking high school football, and it's an honor to have you with us. I know we've had a chance to meet and get to know each other a little bit throughout the season. But just real quick, Coach Peck, the head coach for Mark Morris Monarchs, came over from Burley, Idaho after some stints here in Vancouver. Before that, most recently at Prairie High School, but a graduate of R.A. Long High School. So we're thankful to have you here, Coach. What's been the funnest part of being back in the state of Washington so far?
It's just good to see everybody again. Old coaches, old players, old friends. Even just being back at Mark Morris. I'm teaching with my ex-head football coach from R.A. Long. and so I get to talk with him every day. And his name's Steve Rookledge, and so that's really cool. And then obviously Coach Perkins is still there, and he was the coach at Mark Morris when I was going through RA Long, and so be able to talk with him every day, and Steve Amrine and all the guys from Vancouver and stuff like that. It's just been great to reconnect with them and get back in the Southwest Washington landscape.
Yeah, you throw out a lot of familiar names there. Steve Amrine being the head coach of the Kelso Highlanders. The Highlanders are off to a 3-1 start, and you weren't shy about trying to challenge your team in scheduling Kelso for game number 1 and then turning around and scheduling Seton Catholic for game number 2. Currently your guys are at a 1-3 record overall, but to me, it doesn't look like a team that's 1-3 for you coaching, knowing that those two teams, were going to be difficult wins for you. How do you feel about where you're at after scheduling those teams and playing a couple of games in league so far?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, nobody wants to be 1-3, but we've talked all offseason about the real record is the league season, and we want to do everything we can to prepare for that. And Mark Morris hadn't played Kelso in 5-6 years, but that's always been a longstanding rivalry in Cowlitz County. And so it's really good to bring that back. And then, Seton Catholic was obviously really good, one of the top 1A teams in the state. So it got us battle tested early. It really showed what we need to get fixed and where we were weak. And that's what non-league is supposed to do for you. And as long as you can get out of that healthy, I think it's a good thing. I liked a lot of the things we did versus Columbia River. Defensively, we were fantastic. Held them actually to negative rushing yards. And we scored 14. And there's 2 or 3 plays that should have been touchdowns where we just made some mistakes and things like that. So that score could have been a little bit more in our favor. But then went down to Washougal, and Washougal has a really good defense. I think they're giving up like 10 points a game on the year. Elijah Franco is a stud, and we knew that going in. And their 2 DNs are both 6'3", 215 kids. I mean, that you would see at like a 4A school. And they're really well coached there. So we've had a really tough start to our schedule, but I think it's going to make us better in the long run towards the back end of our schedule. And we're 1-1 in league. And the plan is to get the 2-1 this week and keep building on that.
Matt, you want to jump in at all with anything for Mike?
Check. Yes. Coach Peck, welcome back to Washington, first of all. Second, I really I like the your non-schedule or your non-league scheduling there. One of the things that you had mentioned there is, your record isn't what it is non-league. It's about what's in the league. And, going out and challenging your guys. I mean, it may not get the results that you're looking for, but, on the film, you can learn from the mistakes and make it better for the next time. Is that kind of like, is the non-league schedule something that you're wanting to keep really tough going forward? Like, you're going to look at teams maybe future on and be like, hey, yeah, we want to challenge our guys, even though we may come out of it 0-2, it's going to help us with lessons as we get into the games that really, really matter on our schedule later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the goal. And we have our pyramid of success, and at near the top is to compete for a league title every year. And we're going to do what we can to prepare for that. And it's even things like over the summer, rotating as many kids as possible in multiple positions so we can build depth. And then obviously scheduling 2 non-league teams, 2 tough teams in non-league. And I mean, obviously you don't like to lose, but it's going to show you what you need to get fixed and kind of where you're struggling. And it's easy to schedule somebody and get a win, but it doesn't tell you what you need to do to get better. And we're a brand new staff with a lot of brand new kids, obviously. So it's been a learning experience for all of us. And that's been the goal, is just get better each week and spend the first couple weeks figuring out who we are and what we need to do and get ready for league. And I still think we're in the process of figuring that out. But we're making steps in the right direction. I do feel like we're getting better each week in all 3 phases.
Yeah. So Coach, coming from Burley, in Idaho, I can't remember off the top of my head. You might have to correct me, but were you playing 8-man football at Burley, or was that 11-man football?
It was 11-man.
Okay,
It's
I wasn't
the
sure.
scores would make it look like it was 8-man, but
Yeah,
no,
I wasn't. Yeah, well, that's kind of was the transition. I guess was you scored a ton of points at Burley, right? I mean, coming to Mark Morris, a team that's been major run heavy, for the last 20 years essentially. But your defense really showed out against Columbia River, holding them to nothing, and then even holding Washougal down, to the low 20s is a pretty good number in the Greater St. Helens League. Do you have any concerns at all about where you're at in terms of getting the offense going, or are you more encouraged by leaning on the defense in terms to help you guys get some wins so your offense can kind of come along?
Yeah, that's a great question. No matter what, we've always talked to our kids about two things. You got to be great up front on both sides of the ball, and you got to play great defense to win championships. And there was a lot of talk about offensive focus going into this year, but in reality, we were focusing a lot on our defense because it takes time to get good on offense, especially when you're throwing the ball. And again, we're transitioning from a team that was wing T for 20 years, and they had a lot of success doing that, but it's a whole different skill set for the kids to learn. So we knew we'd have to rely on our defense a little bit this year. And so that's kind of been the goal. And I mean, our defense really only gave up 14 versus Washougal because we had a pick 6 on offense. And those two scores really came on short fields that the offense kind of gave our defense. So, but yeah, it's defensively has been a big focus for us, and I really like where we're at there. We're getting better on both sides of the ball up front, and the pass game is coming along. We threw the ball 41 times versus Washougal. That might be the record for Mark Morrison. It's 60 years in existence.
It probably is.
And it was a lot of fun, and we were able to do some up-tempo stuff and start getting into some things that we like and are building to. But obviously, we just got to be more consistent, and that's the piece of it. I mean, I think we were 24 of 41 for 230 yards. But we just got to get more consistent with that, and then also get our ground game going. And so that's been a big focus for us as well.
So, Mike, I kind of want to go back a little bit to your previous stop just for a quick second here. Being the OC at Burley there with the patented Top Gun offense. So that offense is anytime you run a pass heavy offense, it's going to be it's on your quarterback. But you had an All-American wide receiver up there with Gatlin Bear, just all-world kiddo over there over at the University of Oregon now. So when you're designing plays and you know that you have a kid who is just probably head and shoulders above everyone else he plays, like do you try to kind of put some more complex stuff in there to maybe help him as he gets ready for the college game, or are you still trying to keep it simple for some of the other players that may not be up to the level of play that he was at?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we were really blessed with great players at Burley, and just like I was when I was at Prairie, and we got some great ones here at Mark Morris too that are going to be really dang good. But obviously Gatlin was different, one of the top recruits in the nation. And it's fun to coach a guy like that because obviously you got to have a tremendous football IQ to get to that point, but he was also athletically really gifted. And he worked for all that too. But it creates a unique challenge because you have this All-American guy that needs to touch the football, but everybody in the state knows who he is, and they're doing everything they can to prevent him from touching the football. And so I'm sure you saw clips of it where, he was literally triple and quadruple covered at times. So yeah, to answer the question, there was a little bit of teaching to his football IQ to where we were able to move him around a lot, let him utilize his own kind of shifts because he knew where he needed to be. So it was making it harder to double team and triple team him while keeping it more simple for the other guys. But one of the biggest things that did obviously is if somebody's getting triple teamed, it's going to open up a lot of things for somebody else. And in his junior year, he got double teamed a lot, but he's obviously put up monster stats and had an incredible junior year. And then senior year defense was just like, this isn't going to happen. and he still had a good year, but and he was injured for like 3 games, but he had to have 3 or 4 people on him every play. So there were some younger kids, and our run game was really good as well that next year. And that's what happens. Like if you have a good offense, good player like that, if a team wants to do what they can to take that away, it's going to open up something for somebody else. And I mean, that's a good problem to have. But yes, you always have to get creative, because when somebody is that athletic, you got to find ways to get them the football. So it was a good but stressful problem to have.
Coach, kind of to piggyback on that in terms of athletes and, where you're at currently with Mark Morris, obviously there's a couple of guys in my mind, that might fit the bill for a next level college athlete if they want to pursue football as an option in college. But I'll let you go ahead and, tell me who you think that you possess at Mark Morris and who you might see as a guy who could take advantage of an opportunity to play on Saturdays somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Our running back, Kenny Mullen, he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. We haven't been able to get him going how we'd want to yet this year, but he's got all the physical tools to be a college running back. But I really, really like who we have in our sophomore and junior groups. I think the sky is the limit with some of these young men, but Decker Bartell, he's a junior. He's a receiver for us. He's an outside linebacker for us on defense, and he's an incredible baseball player as well. And then we have Daniel Kobayashi, who he's starting both ways for us as a sophomore, as a receiver and DB, and he's just making big plays all the time still. And we have Dalton Stevens up front, who's our starting left tackle. He's a sophomore, and he's 6'3", 280. And he's a 2-year starter already as a sophomore. And we have some other young guys. I mean, we have a freshman who's starting at DB for us, Avery Elliott. He's also going to start getting some running back reps, but he might be the fastest freshman I've ever seen. And I didn't get to see Gatlin, but as a freshman. But again, Avery, he's been starting at corner, but we needed to get him some running back reps. So he played in the JV game a couple quarters on Monday, and he had like 5 touches for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he's just different. And so we feel really, really good about who we have in our younger grades going forward. There's a lot of potential in that group and a lot of guys who can be playing college football.
Nice. Matt, did you have anything else on the top of your head there?
Let me think about it. If you got another one, go for it. I'll think of something.
Yeah, just a couple things real quick, Coach. Something real lighthearted. Favorite football movie?
Oh, shoot. As you can imagine, I love football movies. It would be hard to pick a favorite, but if you want a serious one and about like teams coming together, obviously Remember the Titans is always a classic. But if you like comedy, The Waterboy is always a classic, and then The Program as well. I mean, that's a staple. Yeah. But there's a lot of good ones out there, and even the Junction Boys with the legendary Texas coach, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but that's a whole crazy story right there. But yeah, anything with football on it, I'm a fan of.
Nice. I'm sure you had a chance to see it, right? And it wouldn't be, I guess, polite of me to ignore it. But since you are a graduate of R.A. Long High School, you probably saw that the old Lumberjacks put up 47 points at home the other day against Hawkinson Hawks, and have kind of put themselves in pretty good position here with 2 wins so far. Although their schedule does get tough, I kind of see a potential here for this last game of the year to maybe be somewhere in that playoff zone where either you both might have a chance to get in, or it could be an eliminator game. Has that even come across your mind at all, or are you just so focused in on Hudson's Bay coming up this Friday?
Yeah, I mean, I saw R.A. Long's 3-1, and that's good for them, and I'm happy for their players and their coaches, and they're from Longview, and I want what's best. I just want Longview football to be good and have success. And but have I thought more about it than that? Not really. I'm a big believer. I'm kind of a superstitious. If you look at and think about other things down the road, it's bad football juju. You don't want to piss off the football gods. And so we just focus on the next game and do everything we can to prepare for. It just happens to be Hudson's Bay this week. And And again, for us, as we're developing as a program in year one, we've talked a lot about, like, it doesn't matter who we play. The focus has to be on us and just being the best version of ourselves. And we're on that path, but we're not there yet. And when we do become the best version of ourselves, we're going to be a really good football team. And the good news is there's a lot of football left to be played. And so obviously within that, you're being the best version of yourself while preparing for the next opponent, which happens to be Hudson's Bay. But yeah, very strict believer in just focused on who's next and focusing on yourself.
Yeah, Hudson's Bay has been a really interesting story this year. I think we were all thinking that they were going to take the next step forward, but that 0-4 record is really shocking to me.
Yeah, and I think they're better than their record. Coach Oliverio does a really good job there, and they have a good coaching staff, and I think they've kind of been bitten by the injury bug a little bit earlier this year. And at the 2A level, if you have a couple injuries to key players, that can really hurt you. But on film, they're still playing really hard. They're getting after it. They have good schemes. And so Friday should be a really good game. And, you know, one thing with Hudson's Bay is they're always going to fight and they're always going to bring it. And so Friday should be a fun game.
Yeah, Coach, I'll let you get out of here on this one here, but it doesn't seem to me like a team in the league is set up to probably go undefeated. I think with the parity that we've seen up and down, the big one this week, obviously other than Mark Morris and Hudson's Bay, but Washougal and Ridgefield getting together. I don't really look at the record in that game. I think that Washougal has a superb defense, like you mentioned, and Ridgefield's been tested a couple of times so far already this year, and they've come out on top late in fourth quarter action. But I don't know if I see a team going undefeated in the Greater St. Helens League, and I wouldn't be shocked at all to see a team potentially have 2 losses, maybe tie for a league championship. So like you said, there's a lot of football left to be played, and you got to like where you're at in terms of being able to still climb the ladder in the league standings.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the cool parts about this league is every night you have no idea what's going to happen. And I think that was evidenced more than anything last year. And it's ringing true this year as well. And that's one of the things I heard over and over when I was fortunate enough to get this job is just it's a fun league because you never know what's going to happen on Friday night once the league comes. And I mean, the reality is we're 1-1 in league, and we still control our destiny, and so that's a really good thing. And yeah, I agree with you. I think a team with 2 league losses could very well end up being the league champion, and then obviously we get I think it's 4.5 bursts into the playoff this year. So there's a lot of good football left to be played, and there should be some really fun games on these upcoming Friday nights.
Awesome. Well, I always leave the floor open for our guests. If you have any ideas or questions that you'd like to run by us, or concerns or comments, feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to address them.
Hopefully something good pops up. I can sit on here and talk football all day. This is fun. Yeah,
no, we appreciate you coming on and carving out a little bit of time for us to do it. And I just don't think a lot of people really know Mark Morris football that well outside of maybe the city of Longview and the Greater St. Helens League area and such. But it's been a lot of fun to have you on here, and I like getting to know you and figuring out kind of what the philosophy is. And I think that you're doing a great job so far, and I like the energy of the program, and I can't wait to come out Friday to broadcast the homecoming game between you guys and Hudson's Bay.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that a lot, man, and have a ton of respect for what you do and the coverage you provide for high school athletes, and same with you, Matt. And I've been following you from afar with being at Prairie, and then obviously over in Idaho a little bit. But what you guys do is exceptional stuff. And so we as coaches, and I know our players appreciate it. And even it's kind of funny because you posted that on Twitter today, and a couple of our players are like, "You're going to be on the N2's podcast." And I was like, yeah, but they follow what you and Matt are doing and stuff like that. So it matters, and it's really cool. And so thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the feedback.
Yep, absolutely appreciate it, Mike. Thank you for everything you're doing, and looking forward to following Mark Morris football. As long as you're there, and hopefully, a long, long time.
Yeah, I'm hoping so as well. I think we're in the process of building something special. Obviously, it takes time, but I'm really excited about the foundation that's being built and where we're heading. And so I couldn't be more fired up, that's for sure. And I can't wait for Friday, homecoming.
Yeah, it should be a good atmosphere, and I look forward to a good game. And I wouldn't be sleeping at all on Hudson's Bay, which I know you're not, but they're a little bit different team right now than what we saw coming into the year. But they have the capabilities and the coaching to put one together at any time. So I'm expecting a real tight game and a good atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a great Friday night, small town football stuff, and that's what it's about. There's nothing better.
Right on, Coach. Well, appreciate you carving out a few minutes for us here tonight, and we'd love to have you back at some point. And we'll probably have to talk with you at the end of the year to kind of reconvene where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be on any time. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Yep, we appreciate it. We'll let you get out of here, Mike, and enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch up with you on Friday. And for everyone, again, that's Coach Mike Peck of the Mark Morris Monarchs, who took some time out to join us here on tonight's show. So, yeah, I like a lot about Coach Peck and his philosophy. And, I would just say, off the air with him that I just like what he stands for as a person and how he kind of connects with the athletes and connects with the community. I mean, obviously it's about football and it's about winning football, but it's about the relationships that you build along the way. And I get a good sense that he understands what that means.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I really took from that was how he was talking about during the summer, rotating players into newer positions and stuff like that to help build depth, especially when you're at the 3A and 4A level. Yeah, you're going to get a bunch of kids out there, but when you're at the lower levels, yeah, a couple of injuries can just absolutely be devastating. And if you don't have those kids that have reps, even if it's just a couple reps in there, I mean, it can be just crippling to a program. So I really like what I hear there. I see that around the state too, with a lot of other coaches doing that as well. But yeah, no, I really liked hearing that, and I'm really excited for that Coach Peck's back here. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of his. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time, and just really, really excited to get to see what he does with his program down there in Longview.
Yeah, I love his answer about looking around at other teams and what they're doing and such, and just trying to remain focused, and the superstitious aspect of it. You don't want to piss off the football gods, I mean, that's powerful stuff right there.
Well, and with the remember the Titans answer too, I don't think he pissed off the football gods there. I think it's other than Ryan Gosling being a complete liability at cornerback. I think that's I love that. Yeah, pretty solid answer.
That's a great meme, by the way. Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, let's never forget that he was a huge liability at safety. But the truth is that in the semifinal game in that movie, he got reinserted into the lineup, bro, and he learned from PD, and they didn't allow another yard. If you remember, they were going to blitz the quarterback all night. It was a good time. All right, let's circle back a little bit here, and I guess I don't know. I'd like to leave it up to the audience here. Anybody here who's watching and who knows how to type in on the live stream comment section, we've got one of those. Justin Domashevitz has used it a few times and thrown some haymakers my way. Let me get that out of the way real quick, Justin. I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. And you know what? You were right. You, who will never not pick Montesano, by the way. It just so happens they won to back up your pick because you'll pick them no matter what. I objectively looked at that game and got it wrong, as did everybody else on the Scrimmage podcast who picked, because everybody else picked Napavine to win that one. And, without being there and seeing how the game played out and how it went, I can't speak to it. I did catch the Scrimmage podcast, which you can also find on YouTube on Sundays, by the way. Sounded like Montesano ran the ball with great success in that game overall and controlled the tempo, and good for them. That was a big win. We had that game kind of on the watch last week. We picked it. Matt got it right. I got it wrong. 35-19. I'm glad we cleared that out, by the way. I got it wrong, which happens. And the Wi-Fi seems to be working a lot better, so maybe I'll do a little bit more research next time, Justin.
Yes,
yeah,
Justin did ask me to gloat a little bit, so I'm just
Yeah.
gonna give a couple fist pumps there, and then we'll be good.
You mean your Taylor Swift GIF wasn't enough?
Oh man,
That wasn't gloating.
not at all. I never gloat with Taylor.
Yeah, there you go. Neither does Travis Kelce, apparently. All right, so Montesano, they end up getting back in. They crawled their way from the depths of the 1A rankings to kind of make it interesting a little bit here. And they started 0-2. They've won their last 2. And anytime that you bring Napavine into the conversation and you get a win over them, that's a good deal. So looks like Mrs. Evans has made her way home. And Carter might disappear for the night. No, Carter's been one of the best co-hosts of all time.
Oh no, he's in it for the long haul. He's tasted his 15 minutes of fame, and he's not going to let it stop anytime soon.
Well, speaking of 15 minutes of fame, just to continue to circle back last week, how about Chief Self here? 33-7 winners over Ingraham, and they're undefeated still, Matt. I mean, anything can happen at this point. Their schedule might not be as challenging as some others around the state in 2A classification, but they're going to be in the conversation for a decent seed. And let's just say it, right? They're 9-0. You kind of got to see them inside the top 10, right?
I don't think so. And I think
Really?
that the reason for that is just because, I mean, yeah, they are playing a multi-classification league, but it is Tier B. So, I mean, they're not necessarily playing the stronger teams in Metro. I mean, if they were up in Tier A and they were even getting 5-6 wins, I'd probably rank them top 10. But I don't think top 10 votes in Tier B, even at undefeated, would be on my plate.
Cedro Woolley, 35-14 winners over Oak Harbor. Cedro stays perfect, and your computers give Cedro a lot of respect at a top 10 ranking there, and a team that the Wesco is getting to know a lot better now.
Yeah, they definitely got a boost from that win over Oak Harbor there. I'm fairly certain that was the first team that they had won, that they've played, or I think Stanwood since won, but they hadn't had any, their opponents hadn't had any wins up to that point. So yeah, computer gave them a nice boost with a win over previously undefeated Oak Harbor squad there.
Well, I think that I don't know if it would be a better time. I'll leave it up to you, right? Since you've got the co-host. Do you want to go ahead and go into our top 6 rankings, or do you maybe want to do a little bit of talk on playoff allocations? What would work best for you?
Either way is fine with me. We're
Okay.
doing pretty good.
Okay. Well, I kind of wanted to jump into playoff allocations real quick. I think a lot of people that are tuned into tonight's show maybe have some questions, kind of want to figure out what's what. If you want to just give a little bit of a synopsis into each class, what the breakdown looks like and kind of what we can expect, or if you just want to point out anything that looks kind of wonky.
Well, the biggest thing this year is, like I said, talking about playoff allocations. The WIA finalized and released the state football and all the fall sports allocations Monday night in their executive meeting, and posted it last night. I've been refreshing that page for about 3 weeks now, and so you're welcome for the traffic up there, WIA. But essentially what we've learned is that every league's going to have 16, or every classification is going to have a 16-team tournament, except for the 1A, who's going to have a 12-team tournament. They just missed the cutoff for a 16 by one team, and it's very sad. But they had opportunities to stay at 44 with Vashon Island possibly still having a varsity squad, but they're not, and Bellevue Christian. But what I've read from Scorebook Live's reporting is that they have the ability to appeal next year if Bellevue Christian or Vashon gets back to varsity. they will have the ability to appeal to get back to a 16 for next season.
Well, that's promising news, at least on the 1A front, that you'd have a chance to get back to the 16-team tournament, because I think that 1A is deserving of having 16 teams. It's a shame when you miss the cutoff by just one school.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is they were just so close. And as some of those schools were having their programs step aside, it started getting nervy. And then when Bellevue Christian went away, it was kind of like, this could be a possibility here. But I like that the WIAA isn't just saying it's going to be 12 for 2 years. They're giving them the chance to appeal to 44 next year.
Sounds like Carter does not approve of the 12-team bracket in 1A, and I don't blame you, Carter.
He is definitely a traditionalist.
Oh man, I love it. I should bring Preston in here real quick so they can kind of do it each. They can talk to each other.
We'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah. Brian Levesky. I like following Brian's stuff, but he typed in a comment on YouTube, says, as a former Evergreen player, class of 1997, I'm excited for Kelso at Evergreen on Friday. As a Camas coach, our road trip to number 4 ranked Coeur d'Alene is going to be yet another great game for Camas. Yeah, that is a great point, and I have that game on my radar. I don't have it on the pick'ems this week because, objectively, I'll pick Camas just because. But I will say this, right? And I think Matt would agree with me because he vacations there as well. But Coeur d'Alene, to me, is beautiful. I love being there. I love staying at the resort. I love golfing, the championship golf course that they got. And of course I love Silverwood. And I hope, Carter gets a chance to go to Silverwood here, not before too long, but Coeur d'Alene's a great place. I would hate to root against Coeur d'Alene. That's, just a phenomenal area. I got married in Coeur d'Alene, so right there.
Nice. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun trip. I know that before the season, I think the football boosters were doing like a fundraising auction, and they were auctioning off I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically like a lake house or something up there to stay at the night of the game. And I thought about bidding on it, but there's only so much you can do on an amateur sports rankings dude's salary to do that. But that's gonna be a great game, and I really like that Camas is looking outside of the box to schedule teams that A, they wouldn't normally play, but B, get them ready for they're not gonna when they get to state championship. If they do get to state championship, it's not going to be a 30-minute bus ride. It's going to be a good 2.5, 3 hour bus ride up to Seattle. So you're getting those, you're getting used to playing with the bus legs and everything. I really like them doing that.
Yeah, they're looking at a 6.5, 7 hour drive to go to Coeur d'Alene from Camas. I mean, depending on which route that they ultimately take. By the way, you're looking at a good 7 hour trip, and yeah, I mean, that's going to be a phenomenal game. And I'm excited to see how Camas stacks up. And yeah, Meg's only here for Carter. I like it. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Carter would have done better than me in the picks last week. That's for sure, Meg.
Carter would have gone for any team that had a "da" in their name.
Yeah. So that wouldn't have been Montesano, though, right? That doesn't say exactly. I don't think Napa Vine had a dot in it either, but either way. Real quick, back to the playoffs for just a second here. So for those who don't know, right, I had to confirm with Matt, but we're not doing district crossovers in any of the A's. So 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A, right? We are going to get committees seeding teams right away. And I wanted to ask you this for my own personal knowledge, but also just in case anybody out there wants to know as well. Is the committee, when they seed these teams, are they going to be looking at region at all? Say like they do in basketball, right? When they want to set up a regional game, I know that they mainly want to try to avoid as many west to east, long trips to where home field advantage might play like a much bigger part in deciding the game. But do you think that that's going to be something that the football committee looks at when it terms like, let's say it's close, right? In terms of who's going to be like a home team for week one, but they're going to try to avoid like say like a 14 playing an 18 or so and having to travel from Southwest Washington over to Northeast Washington.
So I got some updated information that the seating committees are not actually seating the week 10 crossovers. So what's going to be happening there is they are like the district, like the leagues and the districts will determine who gets in mostly by league standings and stuff, and then they send it to, I don't know if it's one person or if it's a few people, but there are a couple people who will create the matchups from there, and then the seating committees will get involved after to do the round of 16. So I don't know specifics of who is going to be creating those or what they're going to be doing. I'm assuming that travel will probably be accounted for, but I don't think that it's going to be a deterrent for matchups.
Okay. Yeah, you always want to try to figure out what the factors are going to be. And, ultimately every team is going to look at every game the same for the most part. Go out and win the game, right? But in terms of where you finish in standings and where you might end up, be going to play in the free world, it's going to have a pretty tough bearing on some teams. And, like you said, Cam is going 7 hours. I mean, that might be different for a team that's, in the top 5 perennially in almost every media outlet's rankings. But, teams that we're not really thinking about off the top of our head that are floating around that 10 to 12 range and who maybe don't have the strongest RPI and such, it would just kind of make you think about how you want to schedule and what you want to value going forward. Being that this is the first year and allocations are going to change next year, it seems like there's going to be kind of a learning curve for this season.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued to see what value is given to league champions. I would like to see them get a protected home slot. I'm not necessarily thinking top 8, but top 16 for sure. Because you might get a league champion that sneaks in at 6-3, 5-4. But I think that even if there are enough teams to bump them down to a 17, I think if you win your league, you should host a week 10 game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to use that example right there, like the 3A Greater St. Helens League with Evergreen, with Kelso, with Mountain View, who's 0-4, but you don't know. They've played some decent teams so far along the way, but you figure that no one's probably going to go perfect in that league. At least that's how I see it. You may end up seeing a team that's got 2-3 losses as a league champion there. So to clarify, you're saying if a team goes 6-3 and wins league, and they may not have like a top 16-ish ranking or computer, formula ranking, but you still think that they should get a home game.
Yeah, absolutely. When I put out my projections after week 9, all league champions all have hosting a game, no matter where they're ranked.
And then so the Bs, right? The 2Bs, the 1Bs, they're still going to have set crossover games with districts, yes. Correct?
Yeah, okay. They'll still have crossovers by districts, and since it's going to be interesting, they both had enough teams to get to 16 teams, so we're going to see a lot more in there than we would have in the last couple of years. So it's actually going to be beneficial to the Northeast 2B, who is going to get 4 bids instead of 3. So there's going to be another team in there that is going to get a chance to, go out and make some noise.
When you say Northeast 2B, you're talking Northwest Christian, Asotin.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge win for that league, considering how many teams by county, right? Isn't that what it is? Yep. Yeah. So any team out of the bi-county could be a contender to knock somebody off in the early going of the playoffs. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on playoffs before we move forward?
Essentially, if I'm still, I'm reaching out to folks to learn more information, I'll share it on Twitter as I find it. But if anybody comes up, has any questions or anything like that, feel free to, to message me on Twitter or, shoot me my DMs are always open, and I'm always down to answer any questions to make, to the best of my ability.
Okay. Well, we appreciate all the knowledge and all the hard work and all the late nights staying up trying to get this inputted and projected. And again, just to clarify that those were not official allocations, right? Yeah, Matt, you're just saying that you'd be super shocked that if they were different.
Yeah. So I put out the thing that I put out on Twitter was kind of what I see as, I've had some corrections like Kinko 4A getting 7 and SPSL getting 7 as opposed to the 8 and 6 that I thought it was going to be, as well as I found out that the CWAC and the GSL 2A are going to glue, so they'll probably each get 3 bids instead of 4 and 2. But I'll keep that updated as things go, and I have a spreadsheet with what I've heard, so updated stuff that I'll share with everybody, and we'll kind of update that as the weeks go on, and so we can see what fields may look like as we're getting closer.
All righty. Well, let's move on here, Matt. Let's do our top 6 in each class. Some changes in mine, at least. And if you look at last week, I think that the biggest shakeup would be like 2A or 2B even. I think we'll do it in order, though, and let's alternate like we normally do. Should we start it from the bottom until we're here, or should we start from the top and move it on down?
Well, it depends. Are we Team Drake or are we Team Kendrick? That's the big issue there.
Well, I don't know. In terms of how the battle went, I don't know. I'd probably give it to Kendrick, but in terms of the music that I listened to, I'd probably go more Drake. So
I say we start from the bottom.
Yeah, let's do that.
Build the suspense.
Yeah. So it's real simple for me. 1B, I got the same as I did last week. I got Liberty Christian. I got at 1. I got Wilbur Crescent Keller at 2. I got Nacelle at 3, and Pomeroy at 4. DeSales at 5, and then Elmira Cooley and Heartline at 6.
Yeah, same here. My 1B didn't change at all. All the teams I had won. In fact, every team I have kind of in my top 10-ish all won. So doesn't change. We're going Liberty Christian 1, Wilbur Crescent Keller 2, Nacelle 3, Elmira Cooley Heartland 4, Nia Bay 5, DeSales 6.
Yeah, Nia Bay Darrington, that'll be a decent game coming up if you're interested in 1B football this week. Any other games for 1B you were looking at?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. There was one, but I can't remember.
Fair enough. I like it. All right. So let's move on to 2B. Now, I think this one's really tough, so I'm going to let you go ahead and start with yours, and then we can kind of figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a tough one for me as well. I kind of had to break the drop team down if they win rule, but other results kind of forced it. So we're going to go in descending order. Ascending order. We're going to go number 6, we've got Freeman. Number 5, we've got Asotin. Number 4, we've got Onalaska. Number 3, we've got Napavine. Number 2, we've got Toledo. And number 1, we've got Okanagan.
Yeah, I ultimately don't have much of an issue with where you value teams right now. It's when we get to week 9, week 10, I think that's when the conversations are going to have to seriously ramp up. And I think that there's going to have to be some serious lobbying. The good news is that this log jam that's in bi-county hopefully will work itself out a little bit to where it's more clear about maybe where the power lies within the other teams around the state. But I found this one really difficult. I think this is just kind of what you like and what you value. I had a hard time getting it to 6 here, by the way. I wrote down 8 teams because I want people to know that I'm considering everybody in the same kind of position here. So 6, I went Napavine at 2 and 2. And I think that that's tough. The reason I think it's tough is because I think that you have them higher, right? You said you had them at 3rd.
Yep.
I have no problem with projecting in my head that they're the 3rd best probably team in 2B. Do they have the 3rd best resume in 2B? Not right now. No. How they go through league, it will be interesting, and where they end up. They could end up being 7 and 2 heading into last week. So Tough to see how that one shakes out, but for now, I got Napavine at 6. I wouldn't have a problem if you move them up. I wouldn't have a problem if you move them out, honestly. 5, I've got Freeman at 3-1. 4, I've got Asotin at 4-0. And then 3, I actually still love Liberty Bell here at 3-1. I think Liberty Bell probably has the most quality of loss if you were going to rank that as a category here against Okanagan, to where, yes, they did lose by multiple scores, but it really wasn't as ugly as most of the games are when it comes to Okanagan opponents. So I still really value Liberty Bell and where they're at here. And I think that they're going to have a strong finish to the season, and it'll be interesting to see where they're at. Toledo, I've got at 2 at 4-0. The only issue that I've really got so far, if I had one, is I just don't know if the strength of schedule for Toledo is going to be, I guess, good enough when it gets to that conversation at the end. You know, when you get to the week 9, when you get to the week 10, and you're going to figure out where these teams are all at. Toledo at 2, to me, depending on, you know, how big the blowouts might be, if they're winning games with a blowout, I don't know if you value them as high as that, really, if the committee values Toledo at 2. And then, of course, at 1, I got Okanagan. That was the easiest pick out of all of them. But I got Northwest Christian at 8 and Onalaska at 7. And I wouldn't have a problem putting them up in the top 10. I think at this point it's tough to put Northwest Christian above Freeman because they lost to him. I think it's tough to put Freeman above Asotin because they lost to him, right? But that league has the makings for teams beating each other up all year, and you're going to have to ignore, you know, one of them losing to one of those teams, and someone's going to get the benefit of the doubt here in that conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be very similar to the EWAC in 2018, I believe, where you had Columbia Burbank beat Riverview, who beat Tri-Cities Prep, who beat Burbank, and how you seed those guys. And that was a wild committee day, but
yeah. I had a hard time putting this list together here just for week 4. So let's go to 1A, and I'll go ahead and start this one. You started 2B. Yeah. So for me, again, tough here, but I said it last week, and I'm going to be a man of my word here. I don't think that Nooksack should be punished for losing a game to Tumwater, albeit it was 49-12. Tumwater is very, 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 very good. So I got Nooksack at 6 at 3-1, and then I got Kashmir at fifth with 4-0 record. Life Christian, I mean, 3-0, just won 86-0 or something like that in the game that they just played. I mean, that's pretty good, and obviously they've got a pretty big win on their schedule earlier in the year as well. We've talked about it a couple times. La Center at 3, and then Seton Catholic at 2, and Royal at 1.
yeah, I only made one slight change. I did drop Nooksack just one slot. I've got Life Christian at 6, La Center 5, Kashmir 4, Nooksack 3, Seton at 2, and Royal at 1.
Okay. Yeah, Kalama was my first team out at 7.
Yes, me too.
2A. Top 6.
2A. So I'm going
Matt.
this one was another one that was kind of hard for me. I'm going 6. I'm going Franklin Pierce. I'm going WF West 5, Archbishop Murphy 4, Linden 3, Anacortes 2, Tumwater 1.
I got no problems with it. However, I just feel that Linden I feel like they'll end up being where you're saying. I don't doubt that. I think for right now, the jury's still out a little bit. I got Linden at 6, and then Franklin Pierce at 5, WF West at 4, Archbishop at 3, Tumwater at 2, and Anacortes at 1. And I think the 1-2 is pretty solid, right? And that 3 conversation with Linden, are they the third best team? Just like with Napavine, I think that they could be there at the end of the season. I would not be shocked. You know, I think that I brought it up earlier in the show. Perennially, the second best team out of Northwest is still valued very high.
Yeah.
So are they deserving of number 3? They could still be. Losing on the road by 14 to the state champions, not the worst loss on the planet. It's still a good loss, honestly. I'm really, really moved, though, by what Franklin Pierce put together this last week. That's a tough Ording team. And 36-8, very impressive. Still a little jury reservations, though. And ultimately, with Archbishop, I mean, I feel that Archbishop is going to be the next best test to go up against Anacortes. What happens in that game will ultimately decide it for me on what I value between Linden and Archbishop Murphy. Do I think Linden's a better team with one loss? Probably. I probably do. For right now, though, I'm going to reserve the right to say, let's give Archbishop a chance to hold this spot until they prove that it's not theirs. So that's my mindset for it. 3A. Not quite as hard. Monroe at 6. Roosevelt at 5. Eastside Catholic, I dropped down here to 4 at 3-1 now after losing to O'Day. I like Kennewick here at 4-0 at number 3, and then O'Day at 2, Bellevue at 1. And I thought a little bit about O'Day being number 1, considering that they've beaten Graham Kapowson, and then they've beaten Eastside Catholic. Those are 2 really, really good wins, and Bellevue's played 1 less game. However, I don't think that you punish Bellevue for that. It's the way the schedule worked out, but I thought a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I like that the 6 teams there. I have them in there just slightly a little different. I've got Roosevelt 6, Monroe 5. I still have Kennewick at 4. Eastside Catholic drops to 3, O'Day 2, Bellevue 1.
Yeah, I got no problem with it ultimately. And then 4A. Matt, take it away, buddy.
So there are a few changes on here. I dropped Skyview out of my top 6. I mean, Westland's great, but I mean, a 45-point loss. I had to take him out there for the week. We're going Arlington at 6. We're going Yelm 5, Kennedy Catholic 4, Lake Stevens 3, Sumner 2, and Camas at 1.
I'm in the same ballpark here, buddy. I got almost everything the same, except for I have a team that you obviously hate. So, don't want to give them the respect quite yet. And I don't blame you, honestly. But I got Skyview out of the rankings as well. Although I do want to throw in real quick here that Skyview is down their starting quarterback. And, that's something that should be considered. Their really, really good wide receiver, Gavin Packer, has been taking over at quarterback now the last at least week and a half, maybe 2 weeks in full. Not sure on the severity of the injury, but I think Skyview is a team that if they got him back healthy, I think it could still be a team that's in the top 6, top 5 by the time everything's all said and done. They got a big game against Camas still on the schedule. All right, with that said, I got Kennedy Catholic at 6, Yelm at 5. And then I got the Richland Bombers, baby, at number 4. I love it. And then Lake Stevens, I moved them up. I think that they're as impressive as anybody when they're not playing Bellevue and they're not playing Sumner, who I have right above them at number 2. And then I got the Papermakers from Camas at number 1. Very impressed with the win against Oregon City, a 6A school. And, I'm not 100% sure on how strong Oregon City was projected to be going into the season. But anytime that you beat a team from the state south of you, it makes me very, very happy. And I had Camas at 1 last week. And you might be able to make an argument, though, that Sumner might be the best team, considering if you consider the echelon, right? If Skyview and Sumner are your measuring points for how they did against West Lynn, I think you got to really like the way Sumner played that game on the road, by the way, in Oregon. So Sumner may end up being the best team still.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's quite a few teams up there that look like they've that have really good resumes that could fight for that number 1 spot.
Well, I'm excited for this week coming up here, Matt. Yeah. You know that? Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
You know why I'm excited? Because in one of these games that we're going to go through and pick, it's going to be Richland against Kennewick. We could just do it right now. The team that you absolutely hate, the Bombers, at home, taking on Kennewick, a team we both absolutely love. Classic offense versus defense here. And I like Kennewick's defense here in this one. I think that they just beat the brakes off of Lewiston of Idaho this last week. and they scored in the 40s as well. I think the combination of the running game that Kennewick possesses, if Richland's able to score quick and beat them over the top with good quarterback play, whose guys put up 15 touchdowns now, I think, almost this season, Woodward. So yeah, so I'm having a tough time on this one, being the fact that Kennewick's on the road here, but I'm ultimately going to go with the Lions of Kennewick here. I think that the running game and the defense will prevail.
Yeah, this is going to be the first real test for both of these teams, and I'm going to go with the Bombers at home. I think that I really like Kennewick's offense. I really like their defense as well, but Richland has 3 legitimate targets to throw the ball to, and I don't think there are a lot of teams that can stop all of those. I'm not sure if Kennewick's one of them. I think it's going to be really close. Actually, you know what? I'm still gonna go with Richland, but I'm gonna say that I think that if the winning team scores less than 30 points, then Kennewick probably wins. But if they score more than 30, it's probably Richland.
I like it. I guess I don't know where to go from here. There's a lot of good games that are on the schedule this week. This is kind of like not an eliminator week yet, but there's a lot of games. There's some fringe records, teams that were hoping to be playoff teams this year that might find themselves in a really tough spot if they lose. But I went to another undefeated game here. I love Eatonville at Franklin Pierce. Eatonville's played phenomenal so far this year, and we both agreed that when the season started that they would be a contender in 2A right away to, not only maybe make the playoffs, but to win their league, and they're in position to do so right now. But Franklin Pierce, they're super tough, and they get this game at home. What do you like in this one?
I like Franklin Pierce in it. I think that they made a huge statement with that shellacking of Ording last week. I think that defensively they're better than we give them credit for, and I also think that Eatonville kind of they're very good offensively, but I'm not 100% sure defensively yet. They did give up 20 points to Foss last week. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with Franklin Pierce in this one.
I'll go Franklin Pierce as well. And I'm kind of with you on the same mindset here. I mean, the defense is going to be really, really tough here for Franklin Pierce, considering that they just went up against one of the better offenses in the league in Ording and held them to just 8 points. And it's hard to stop the Power T, once it gets going in the right way. I mean, I watched a lot of 80s YouTube videos of state championship games back when it was called Double A or Triple A. I watched the Kelso Cedar Woolley 1983 championship game on YouTube the other day, and I also saw Arlington against Mark Morris from 1979. And Franklin Pierce runs an offensive set similar to what you see in those videos, and I just kind of fall in love with it again, and I think more teams should go back to it. So Cardinals over the Cruisers here in this one. And then, I'm not saying that it's cheap to put this game on the pick'em here because it's Royal involved, but Cashmere's got a really good team this year, and it's on the road at Cashmere. But yeah, the game number 3, Royal at Cashmere. Obviously, I'm going to pick Royal in this one until someone beats them. But this is as big of a game as it gets in the 1A slate this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Royal's the best team until someone beats them. I think that Cashmere is going to give them the most physical test that they're going to see before the playoffs. But yeah, I'm going to go with Royal. I think it's Royal did give up 21 points last week against Zilla. I think it's going to be I think it'll be a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah, the Leopards hung in there for a little bit last week, and their team only got 1 loss. But yeah, I mean, eventually, you'd like to believe that someone's going to give Royal more than just a keep it close game. I'd like to see a team go toe to toe with them, and Cashmere's got a lot of respect so far this season. We'll see how that plays out. Next one. This to me is a major eliminator game for Graham Kapowson. Graham Kapowson at Yelm. And not totally out of it, but if you look at the dynamic of the standings right now, and where the teams are kind of at. If Yelm wins this game, they have a pretty, I will say, not every game's easy, right? You can't say they have a clear path, but they've got a very reasonable path of capturing the league championship for their section very, very, very early in the year. And I expect Graham Cowson to play with their hair on fire in this one. What do you value? It's a tough game to decide. You got a young quarterback for Graham Kapowson, and you got some young up-and-comers as well for Yelm. Yelm's been playing super good since we started here, or since they started in 4A. They've been in a couple close games, and then they've blown a couple teams out. Ultimately, I chose to go with Yelm at home here, but I had a hard time. This is kind of like a coin flip to me, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I definitely think this is a coin flip. I think, this is a tough one because this is a really tough one. I'm gonna go with Yelm as well, but I think it's gonna be really close. I do like Graham Kapowson and what they're doing. I know they have they're pretty young at the quarterback position, but I really like what I've seen from them so far, and they have played some really tough games so far. They did only lose by a touchdown to O'Day. They only lost by 4 to Skyview. So I think that they're better than their record gives them credit for. But yeah, I think that in this one, I think I'm going to go with Yelm in a close one.
Game number 5, Kelso at Evergreen. Both teams 3-1, and both of these teams played last season in a second place tiebreaker game that Kelso ended up winning. And Kelso had a losing record going into this game last year. It was at home, and they beat Evergreen by 3 touchdowns. You got to believe that Evergreen obviously remembers that, and then Kelso eliminated them from getting into the postseason as well a few days later in the Kansas City tiebreaker, and the Highlanders off of a 21-0 win a week ago against Bremerton. I am never going to pick against the Kelso Highlanders again, because that game last year I picked Evergreen, and because of that I lost the Pigskin Profit first place to Jody Nayland. So Jody, I don't care what the result is. I cannot pick against Kelso in this one. Highlanders.
I think I'm going to go with Evergreen in this one. I think it's going to be it should be a good physical game, and though I do like Kelso's resume so far, I think Evergreen wins in a close one.
Well, Aiden Montagna has like 800 rushing yards already for Kelso this season, including a game where he went over 300 against Bellarmine Prep, who's undefeated still. So Brian Levesky was talking about him being an Evergreen grad. When I was in high school, which I graduated in 2002, but in 2001, I got a chance to see a game between Kelso and Evergreen where Kelso got on top, I think 27-7 or 27-0 either way. And Evergreen had a running back named James Monk who came out and just absolutely lit up the Kelso defense to almost 300 yards rushing. And they ended up coming back and beating Kelso. So it's a long-standing rivalry there between those two teams. They've done battle for, it seems like, forever. So it'll be an interesting, entertaining game. Last game on the docket, a little outside the box for most, but you've all heard of Monroe before. But they're on the road against a Mount Lake Terrace team that is still undefeated after beating previously undefeaten Shorecrest last week. Battle of 4-0 teams in the Wesco. What says Matt Evans on this one?
I think Monroe's, clear top 5 team. I'm going with Monroe by multiple touchdowns in this one. I'm not taking anything away from Terrace. That win over Shorecrest last week was, it was a gritty win over a previously undefeated team. But no, I think Monroe is the cream of the crop in the West Coast South.
Agreed, Monroe. And it doesn't even need to go much further than that. I do think that they'll win very easily in this game. And yeah, it's still a battle of unbeatens in a league that is going to have a champion, and Monroe wants to take the next step, but Mount Lake Terrace has already taken a couple extra steps forward, so we'll see how it goes. And Brian Levesky says that Monroe has a very fast running back. So, and then they play at Monroe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so that's definitely a game that Camus will be watching.
I'm glad we got. So
UAC,
type into the
who
comment section, just like Todd's doing here, folks, if you got questions on a game on who we like. So LaSalle and Goldendale.
That's going to be a really good game. It's going to be LaSalle's first real test of the season. I don't know where that one is, if that one's in Goldendale or if that's at Marquette. I think that, let's see, let me slow down real quick and look up and see where that game's at. Let's see, Arbiter. By the way, if you guys don't use Arbiter Sports, it is the greatest thing ever. I use it constantly. Let's see, Goldendale football, boys varsity, riveting radio. Oh, it's at Marquette. Okay, so LaSalle's the home team. I think I'm going to go with LaSalle in this one. I mean, they are undefeated, and they, coming down from 1A, they're in a prime position to make a run. And I had some folks earlier on the season that were telling me, "Hey, keep an eye on these guys." So no, I'm gonna go with LaSalle in this one.
Yeah, the only thing that I know about either of these two teams off the top of my head is that Goldendale played Toledo earlier this year, who's still undefeated. And Toledo's handled their business pretty easily to this point, but they didn't do it quite so easily against Goldendale in that one. But in terms of who LaSalle has played and beaten this year, I don't have it up here in front of me. I'll just say this. I do know that the records are fairly close, and you said LaSalle's unbeaten, and I think Goldendale's only got maybe one loss so far. So it's got the makings for a good game. How about that? 2-1 for Goldendale. They just beat Kittitas 28-16 in a league game, and LaSalle just beat Highland. And just let me take a quick peeky here. 33-8 over Burbank, 28-20 over Tri-Cities Prep, 61-22 over White Swan. So a couple of games outside, taking on the UAC East. I think LaSalle would be the pick here in this game. Just their rating is slightly higher as well. That's kind of where I would lean in this one, but I could see it being like a touchdown or less game. I don't expect it to be much of a difference between those two teams.
It should be a good one. If you're up in the Union Gap area, go check it out.
Yeah, the ratings between the two teams are very similar, and if anything, I think that the Goldendale game against Toledo, being that's their only loss, that's a good loss. I think that they could be one of those teams that could compete with anybody just outside of that top 5. So who knows? Actually we're right on schedule here, even though we had the technical difficulties here getting Coach Peck in and having the interview, but speeding through the show here tonight. And I wanted to try to get Matt to bed as soon as possible because I know he's fighting a cold, and I appreciate you gutting it out, Matt, and being with us here tonight. Any other thoughts at all about anything going on this week or weekend or last week?
Big games this weekend. Big game on Saturday for the Huskies. I have no idea how they're favored to beat Michigan, but who knows? It should be a fun one up there at Husky Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, though. I don't know how they're favored in that one. I mean, they must hate Michigan for some. I got to tell you, though, anytime money's involved and you see a team that you're just scratching your head like, why are they favored? It's usually to draw action towards the other side. But
that's true.
I think that Washington probably wins the game, to be honest with you. I think that there's, for the fan base, at least in this one, got to figure out a way to get his offense to convert in the red zone and come away with points when he has a chance to. Outside of that, the schedule's tough for Washington, and they got to go play at Penn State. That looks like a loss on paper right away. And, you got to play at Iowa. That looks like a tough game to win as well. So, I mean, if they're going to have any chance of getting anywhere this season, they're going to have to win a game like this. They're going to have to figure out a way to do it. I will say that after last night's Seahawks-Lions game that I am super encouraged by what Ryan Grubb has been able to do on the offensive side for Seattle. I think that there were a couple of horse manure calls that went against Seattle, and one big one that wasn't called in the end zone as well. It looked like an obvious accosting in the end zone, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not nearly as bad as losing at home to your division rival and falling behind 28-0 to Sam Darnold and the running back that you released the year before.
Oh, that's funny.
It's not nearly as bad as that.
That's for sure.
Outside of that, the last thing I wanted to say real quick is I had a chance to broadcast the Ari Long game against Hawkinson this last week. And the very first game that I broadcasted 5 years ago almost, right? It was at least 5 football seasons ago. First event ever for N2 Media was Hawkinson at Ari Long football. And this is kind of on the tail end of the Roccacelli teams for Hawkinson. They were back-to-back state champions at one point just a few years before this. And they came in and they beat Ari Long 56-0. And it was over quick. It was a 42-45 nothing halftime, something like that. Seeing those two teams play this last Friday and seeing Ari Long win 47-14, I couldn't help but just smile ear to ear the entire time. And, I wanted to say it on the air, but I didn't. But run it up. They have gotten beaten. That was the first win against Hawkinson since 2013. I can't remember the last time they scored over 40 points in a game. They were up 37 at one point. The Arnold Lumberjacks are 2-0 in league. They're 3-1 overall. I don't know what it's going to culminate with, but it was a lot of fun to be there and to see it. And I'm super proud of John Barker, the head coach for Ari Long, to get that win. And I know that Coach Peck kind of wants to stay away from that topic, but I am looking forward to the Civil War matchup with Mark Morris coming up here at the end of the season. I got a feeling that game is going to be for a playoff spot. Maybe they both have a chance to get in there, but when you got Washougal and you got Woodland and Ridgefield, you figure that those 3 teams are probably going to figure out a way to make it. So it'll be real interesting to see where the Ari Long Mark Morris game might ends up for both of those teams. But good for Ari Long. Trey Jenkins had 3 touchdowns in the first half on 3 straight possessions, 8 catches, 153 yards total. Quarterback Jackson Rivenis, 4 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown run. Hell of an effort, boys. Good job.
Yeah, congratulations, boys. It's always nice to get to break long losing streaks, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then also I saw that there's a big game coming up here. Bainbridge is playing up north against North Mason. Teams that we didn't think were going to be factors when it comes to maybe league championships, but I think Bainbridge has got just as good a chance as anybody to come out and win that league. But a lot of good things going on around for teams that haven't been there recently. So it's really exciting to see.
Amen.
All right. Let's get out of here, Matt. Let's have ourselves a good evening. Appreciate everybody coming on and watching. So, we'll be back hopefully next week, same channel, and have your questions, comments, concerns ready, except Justin Domashevitz for Montesano football. So, I hope you all have a great weekend.